I think John in his talk suggested, and if he didn't, he certainly suggested it in the last day or so, that there's perhaps a weakening in the content or the quality of the blogosphere. That it used to be that we had this sort of sense of discovery, excitement about what was being written, that our RSS readers bubbled up with new, interesting stuff every day, and that seems to have sort of not vanished necessarily, but really slowed down. I think a lot of it is because the business models of most of the major websites are page view oriented, and they're not about quality, they're about what works. And we've seen that in Hollywood and the studio system collapsing. We've seen this in every media. Look at the record business, or what used to be called the record business. So if we respect each other's time, this graceful conversation produces efficiencies that are in turn noticed by businesses, publishers, and artists. If we don't get the artists involved, nothing's going to happen. I'm scorned for being a complete Beatle fanatic, but the Beatles completely reorganized the entertainment industries of the planet because they were so viscerally interesting and exciting, and such a combination of music, writing, humor, everything, that they fueled an explosion of media that we're still in the middle of. So we got to get the artists in. The publishers they're trying to get in. They think that the iPad's going to save them. And the businesses, they're all businesses, and they're all going to flourish once this spark is triggered. The resulting economy begins a foldback loop. I'm using the word foldback because the Gillmor gang uses a back channel of an audio board using a mix -1 strategy. It's just a way of basically taking the audio of you out so that when you're listening to everybody, you're hearing them in what approximates real time, which is probably 30 or 40 microseconds. It's not bad, coming over Skype from around the country and even from, England, for example. Without it, you're basically, you're talking, over, it's like a conversation from a different era. With it, there's this visceral excitement. It's kind of like magic when you're sitting in the control room, and if you're on the call, we're all engaging in this conversation that's real time, and we forget very quickly that we're not in the same room. I mean, it's literally magic. So that foldback loop, when that was enabled, which I did with the participation and cooperation of what's that guy's name? Leo Laporte. When that was turned on, it freaked us all out, and Leo threw us off his network as a result. But the feedback loop that feeds on itself to produce further innovations and efficiencies. You get into this space where you're making decisions and you're getting ideas based on a different set of criteria. And it doesn't mean that it's all going to be good, doesn't mean that any of it's going to be good, but it's something that stimulates the artist in us. I just put a slide in here because there's some experiments around the idea of the private web. Basically, enough already. Let's just. This was triggered by Leo Laporte's actions. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have to have any more conversations where, people were talking to their fan base, and the worst instincts of the people who were participating were brought out. So I sort of went in this direction for a while, but I got nothing to say about it. And then the iPad. It's a two-way training mechanism. We're being trained by it. This presentation is the only thing that will go on this screen, for example. If you want to write something, you got to find a software package that will actually be allowed to store the data in real time on the hardware, not just going to the cloud. Like, you can't use Google Docs because Google won't ship Google Docs for the iPad. You know, it's a cornucopia of bullshit. So we're being trained by this, but we're also training them. You know, the app developers are going to come out of the woodworks. The Android guys are going to push the envelope in what they consider to be the weaknesses of the platform. Jobs is going to come back and open that up, as he's doing with multitasking, for example. It's going to be much more battery efficient than what's going on at the moment on Android. And so it's a full back loop. It's going to go around and around, and it's going to get better fast. Recomposing the looking glass. In other words, you know, there's this argument that this is just for consuming. It's not a creative box. That's ridiculous. This is incredibly creative. I wrote a post on it that I wouldn't have written just because I was experimenting, because I figured they're right. I'm not going to be able to write on it. I wrote on it. It was easy. Yeah, there are limitations, but there are limitations in a frame of a painting. I mean, life is limitations. It's exceeding them. It's exploiting them. Okay, the small window where real time is a choice rather than a constant. What I mean by that is, for the last few weeks, while I've been using this device, I've actually had a respite from the stream, from the tyranny of real time. It's been kind of nice. You know, I'm a huge proselytizer of this stuff, but it's like I'm getting a vacation from it because it doesn't allow multitasking. It'll come back. It'll come back in the summer on the iPhone, and then it'll be in the fall on this device. And obviously the Android devices will present some sort of solution. And then finally, whatever that means, context, Craig, we are building the Kynetx machine. That's where we are right now. Now, is that important? I think so. John and I are in violent disagreement about everything, but for me, there's something incredibly exciting about being at the doorway of whatever the hell this is. And I think that from all the apps that I've seen here, you guys are all feeling the same thing. John's been at the forefront of this for as long as anybody can remember, and yet he's still there trying to do something. He's going in a different direction. I don't want to speak for him, but he's going in a direction which I find laudable, but I don't find it as exciting as what he was doing when he started at InfoWorld, and before that when he wrote his book on information, cobbling together a collaborative information system out of open source technologies. He's always been the guy that I've looked to for explaining in some intuitive way that is valuable what we are looking at here. And if my goal would be to try and establish a dialogue with him again, and I'm not sure whether that's possible or not. But if not him, maybe he's just too old and cranky. Now, this isn't personal. This is about the opportunity that's here. And I want to stop here and start, talking with you guys. I want to hear from you. So whoever said that hug thing, what else? No, what else?